Welcome to Slice Property Made Possible. This season is powered by New Zealand Home Loans, local mortgage mentors who have been helping Kiwis achieve their financial goals for 27 years with proven results. The thing I love about NZHL is the mortgages are tailored for you with ongoing personalised service, coaching and tools to put you in control. It doesn't end with buying your property, they continue to help you pay down any loans and build your wealth, which can't be said about all advisors. This season, we will be playfully roasting everyday buyers and experts so you can learn from our mistakes. Head to today's episode notes to get access to our free home buyers software and your very own NZHL advisor. Kia ora and welcome back to another episode of Slice Your Property podcast. So today we've got Brooke, the founder of Sharesies, joining us to share her home buying experience. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I'm one of the co-founders.
I should caveat co-founder, shouldn't I? How many is there?
6 that founded Sharesies.
Yeah. Well, it's a big platform and you guys are doing amazing things. So you need 6 people to achieve the milestones you've achieved.
Well, more now.
Is there more now?
Well, there's 100
more milestones
of us now at Sharesies, yeah. So need all of them.
Amazing. I'm excited to hear a little bit more about that journey as well. But to kick us off, can we actually start with your home buying journey, Brooke? What is it that you remember? What were the challenges? How did you find it?
We're going back 10 years this year. I remember feeling so thankful for KiwiSaver and that I had started to put money away as I started working, because that was a big chunk of my ability to get into a first home. And so feeling really grateful for the ability to be able to use that. And then how I came about my first home is I really enjoy running, and there was this route I used to run, and I'd run past this one house. It was so weird, and I just felt like I was going to own it. It was weird. I just had this feeling about this house. It was like the worst house on a okay street, but there was just something about it, and I just always kind of had that in the back of my head. And then, the update time I run past this thing, it's got a sale sign out, and I was like,
it's happening.
Yeah, I was like, maybe I can make this happen. So, I went and tried to figure out, how much do you think, how much could I get? And I wouldn't be able to get the whole loan by myself. I was like, who could help? I called my mum. She's like, no, I can't. And I was like, bugger. And then I was talking to the person I just started dating, and I was like, hey, I've seen this house. I just talked to my mum. She can't, but I'm trying to figure it out. But I know I'm gonna have to make this happen. And he was like, well, I'll go in with you on it. I've got my KiwiSaver. I need to get into a first home. And the initial plan was that, I'd move in and my brother and we would rent it. But turns out later, years later, he ends up being my husband. and we ended up moving in straight away and starting Sharesies. It's quite funny how it all worked out. But yeah, so there was this real sense of I really felt like this sense that I was going to try whatever I could to kind of make it happen. And I felt like the realms of possibility because, we said, we could do it together with our KiwiSavers combined and some of our savings. Like, it's actually possible. But then you enter the banking system and whoosh, I had worked in banking. So I'd Layden at that time. He actually managed the home loans, so knew a lot more of the ins and outs. So that was kind of handy, I guess, to, he's been so into that process and knows it, that was quite helpful. But still going through it, there was, the pre-approval, how long that would last, the caveats, figuring out, the sales agreement and what are the things that you should make conditional, and then the working with an agent and feeling like, am I being played or is this a good deal?
Yeah, overwhelming.
It was all just and very paper-based it felt at the time, or just like a lot of information. I was like, why do they need this information when they already have it? It felt a little archaic.
Yeah.
And kind of overwhelming. But I remember too, from being in banking, seeing this chart of emotions on a home buying journey, and I was like,
now it's time to live them. Yeah.
And it's like, there's the rational and the logical, and then there's also the real sentimental or emotional feel you feel around.
There's the felt experience.
Yeah.
And I think, we were talking beforehand, obviously we both worked in banking and then went to the same school, well, a few years apart. But yeah, it's funny it's different when you're kind of in there supporting other people versus going through it on your own.
Yeah.
And you can see those emotions mapped on the wall, and that's great. But when you're feeling the emotions, it's a different experience altogether.
Yeah.
But I love that. I didn't know that you bought your property so soon. We've just got another thing in common. I'm just gonna copy your life map. But I purchased with my partner of 3 months.
Yeah.
So very early on as well, and I'll let you know whether or not he makes husband status. But if I keep copying what you're doing, maybe. But yeah, so it's cool, but it's a different scenario to move forward with. How did you get the confidence to actually go forward with that?
I was paying rent and I just felt like I should, I felt like, with this KiwiSaver, now that I knew that there was this possibility of getting a loan, that really that could start to create something that was mine. I really kind of felt like I wanted a home base in New Zealand too. My parents were, didn't have a spot at the time, and I just felt like that there's something so intrinsic. So it wasn't like really a confidence thing, but pushing through, once I knew I had the pre-approval, once we knew it was a tender process. So once we knew like there's a potential we could get it, it was really up to, well, are they going to pick us or not?
Did you feel nervous though, like about putting your money in with other people, like with your partner?
I didn't, because it was like kind of rational at that time, like kind of thought about like, well, how it would pay rent or who would own, how the ownership would work. I think I was putting in a little bit more at that time. I think because we'd both been in finance, and I think we kind of had that plan.
Yeah.
Which is
you were both coming at it from
like it was good to have like that plan at least.
Yeah.
There was heaps of unknowns though. Like the house was like disgusting. Like we went to the open home and there's ashtrays everywhere and smoke still, smoking. The walls were yellow and brown. Like it was absolutely like really disgusting inside for most people. But all I kind of could see was potential, and like it could get me on the ladder. I also had asthma, so I was also like, gosh, I shouldn't really worry about that. But
where there's a will, there's a way, sort of.
But I was a painter, and he came and helped and sugar-coated the walls, and we stripped off the wallpaper and had family kind of come and help make those like little changes.
For you, it's rational, right? And at the time, it probably was, and now it's probably more irrational because you're husband and wife. But did you have like any friends or family that were kind of like, oh, hey, is that a big step to be purchasing with someone?
I caught up with an old friend the other day, and she was like relaying like how she first ever met Leighton, and it was like, I don't we own a house together. She's like, what is happening here? Like it all did move quite fast. So it was interesting from her perspective. But I actually didn't. I don't recall getting much pushback like that. My parents are really cool in the way that they just let me be me, I think. And, they would put, if they were really worried, but I think at the end of the day, they're like, well, she'll live and learn, so they do kind of have, they're not really helicoptery, I guess. So I didn't feel any of the, oh, are you sure? What if this happens? What if that happens? I didn't really, I think I'd probably thought through a lot of that more myself. But yeah, I was quite surprised actually. I didn't get as much of that, which is quite normal when people are taking risk, especially in Aotearoa and our culture here. Like often, I got into surfing and people are like, oh, is it cold out there? Rather than like, oh, that's awesome, go have fun. You do hear those sides. But yeah, I don't actually recall now, 10 years on, hearing much of that.
But I think it depends on where you're looking at it. Like the reason you'd get that is if you weren't being rational. If it was like, oh, we're in love, we're going to get married, we're buying a house. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to like, oh, we both want to invest in this property and we've done all the numbers and this is a really like good financial decision. And that's where I was at as well, and my partner was at. But I think there is that tension for some that I think even my mum, I'm trying to remember, I think my mum may have been a little bit worried, not overly, but just like, oh, like, are you sure that's the right thing? Because my parents are separated. And so she was looking at it as like, oh, like, what if this relationship breaks down? Like, more focused on that and then what happens. And so, yeah, it's just interesting to hear. We're probably more similar in terms of, and having had that kind of financial, I guess, mind, thinking about it differently. But there's definitely a risk there. Like, if you don't have the right if you're not on the same page, particularly you took on renovation, like a renovation job, the stress of that, adding that to a relationship, like you could have fallen out and that could have gone another way.
But I guess you're also in that honeymoon period, so you just put
So if you're gonna do it like really early on, not like 1 year in, like really early on when you're still kind of smitten.
Yeah. I think knowing the money personalities is quite helpful of each other, you know, and then the joint goals and how you're going to go about funding that has been quite important. But
did you get legal advice on it, or like did you think about doing that?
I think you have to have a lawyer, you know, at some point to help you go through the docs and
through the buying process. But then also generally we encourage a lawyer to actually go through a contracting out agreement, which is effectively a prenup. But so my partner and I have one, but it's actually making those financial decisions, making sure you have the same goals, that sort of thing. So it sounds like you did a lot of that stuff, but you didn't necessarily formalize it.
Yeah, no, we didn't at the time.
It's time for a segment we're calling Roast My Home Hunt. It's time to roast, don't take it to heart. When we learn from your mistakes, we all get smart. Risk reward, but now he's your husband, so it's all worked out.
But also with the house, you know, it's like that was so, you know, it's where we got to, you know, raise our family initially, and you know, although it was really cool to have that and that experience, and really grateful that, you know, had KiwiSaver and had the ability to actually make that happen at a kind of on reflection an okay time in the market.
Yeah. I mean, if you're there long enough in the market though, then it will be an okay time, but not how some purchasers are feeling perhaps at the moment. In terms of that due diligence process, going back to the lawyer, do you recall much about that process and kind of what support you got? And the checklist we sent through, you didn't overly look at kind of flood zones and council maps and things like that at the time. Was there any reason for that, or it just wasn't really front of mind at the time?
We had it conditional to start with our tender offer on a builder's report. So that also, and I think a LIM report. And so that was helpful to kind of help buy some time to investigate the house a bit more. Like we could see, you know, it was pretty rough, but are the bones okay, you know, and can it be kind of cleaned up a bit? And, would new carpet kind of help make it more livable? Or is there, you know, anything pretty hectic? And we did find there was a bit of asbestos glue used and, you know, a few little niggles. But in terms of flood zone, I don't recall looking at that.
Have you bought again since?
So we actually ended up selling that house and buying the neighbour's house, which has been pretty cool. But then again, that was like a bit more of a private deal, and kind of relatively straightforward, and I don't remember doing a flood thing.
Oh, Brooke.
But I think like it'd be pretty hard, like the location of it. I mean, if I was it's like on a hill, you know, so.
Yeah, whereabouts are you?
Like around Haitaito.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, but in future then we'll make note to look at the old council maps and the flood zones.
We did have the LIM reports, but.
Yeah, I think the LIM reports are great, but generally it's ideal to look at them in relation to the council maps because they're quite almost 2D. As you said, the paper documents, it's quite hard to get a sense of actually where, like, mapped on the property that is. Similarly, when you're looking at, you know, some of the other legal documents, you don't know where the boundaries are.
Yeah.
Until you kind of can actually see that mapped in real life.
We did have some of those maps actually on. So what happened was we were in our first home. It got to this point, like we'd grown. We're quite a bigger family. We just done COVID in there. It was pretty felt really claustrophobic.
Yeah.
And we looked at, well, do we need to do something a bit more, more renovations here? So we got an architect and started looking at that. And then I just asked them, like, straight up, should we actually do this on this house or is there a better one? And then our neighbour was looking at selling and they were like, oh, if you could buy your neighbour's house, that'd be way better than this place. So and they'd already done quite a lot of those maps and stuff. So I guess we're in a bit of a different spot where they'd seen from the neighbours the impact and we had quite a good understanding, or people around us had a good understanding of the land we're on.
Yeah, so that second time round you kind of had a lot more, you were going into detail if you're looking at at
Yeah.
kind of extending. Yeah. Did you do a quote for insurance before your first home or that second home?
I don't recall doing it before the first one, but I think we had it lined up and somebody came over, and which was quite interesting. And we didn't actually take one of the insurances they were offering, and turns out it would have been kind of handy too, but oh well, we learned. We were just after home and contents, and then, that they were adding on a bunch of other insurances. And for one part of our life, actually, one of them would have been helpful, but not needed. In hindsight. But then when we moved, we had to have all of that lined up.
Yeah, nice. It's interesting when you look back and you think, that first time, and regardless, like we had Stevie J on, who's now Kiwi Bank CEO. I don't know if he would have been when you were there, maybe not, but now CEO at Kiwi Bank, and he was just saying, background in law, background in banking doesn't make much of a difference when you go to do it yourself, and you're under pressure as well.
Yeah.
As you're moving through that process. Looking back on that journey, what do you think you would do differently, or what kind of tips would you have for buyers on their first time around?
Yeah, honestly, I just think one is just KiwiSaver was such a asset at that time. When we started, we hadn't even really started Sharesies yet, so we didn't have access to, what we have created today. But that ability to put money away regularly, KiwiSaver, investing, whatever, savings, that's really helpful because it shows to the bank that pattern of behavior, which helps the whole process become a lot easier. But also you end up having it can be, really grows over time. So that was the reason why I could get into my first home, which is really, it's a really empowering position to be in, which is cool. And
Totally.
because I'd worked in banking, we knew a lot about the rates and where to go and things. But I do think, I've always known, don't ever just look at one bank, and because banks love a bit of competition amongst each other. So making sure that you can get the best rate or best overall deal for you and your family. And that was actually quite hard because we had to give up some loyalty like that we had for one bank because it just was like going to be way more expensive than another. But that's,
you can't be loyal to a bank. Like, they're
I
not
know,
your partner.
I know, but you kind of, like if you've been with it your whole life or something, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Or just annoying, but like there's so much paperwork to do at that time anyway. What's another AML verification? But that has gone a lot better now. And another piece of advice is it's like it's so akin to investing. It's like with that first property we bought, it was really fortunate timing, and we kind of if we went home and we could see if it was up or down each day, most likely it was going to be up. Now with our second home, it's most likely going to be down, but it's about the time in the market, and I think that's a really important part is like we don't go home and expect to see if our letterbox if the value of our house has gone up or down each day, And it's really akin to investing. It's like it's not about, that's something for the long term. Over a longer period of time will it be up. So I think that's something that's always good to remember. And I remember people, like I was really anxious about, moving our offer up an extra $5,000 or something. It was within our pre-approval limit, but I didn't want to feel ripped off. And I didn't know if I was being played by the agent, But ultimately we got the house and it was worth it. And it's just really thinking about that, like the $5,000 trade-off or whatever, like just if you've got, just thinking about, is that trade-off worth the risk? It's really difficult to know, and it's really hard to predict because you never know who else is in there. There was this period where it's like just go in with your top dollar because that's going to get you in or out. But now I think there's a bit more understanding about what would be the right value for that house. And
a few more bargains to be had. I think to go to your initial point around, cheat on your bank, don't be loyal to a bank. I think a key element of that I now am far more focused on is the mortgage advisor piece. So I've worked at banks, but I'm very pro mortgage advisors because they can compare those banks for you, and they also have access to rates that aren't publicly kind of shared by those banks. So I think for anyone listening, and we have advisors that work via the Slice platform, it's definitely worth considering that, and it's a free service. When you move to market trends, I agree. I think it's human nature like when you're giving so much money to something, to want to check it and want to see what's happening with it. But it's actually a bit set and forget, I think, until you come to sell, and then you have to make a decision of, well, is now the right time, or is this the right decision for us? But yeah, I agree. Moving into, I guess, another reflection of that might be what's happening in Sharesies. Do you find people are in there kind of tracking every day the value of their portfolio?
Oh, so on Sharesies, we've got 770,000 investors across investing, saving, KiwiSaver, car insurance. So actually, there's such a range of behavior. There is like a
Yeah.
smaller segment of those people that love to be in each day and check it, or actually be trading each day. A lot of people do like to see what's going on, and if they've heard something in the economy, just go check. But they maybe like it's more about going, oh, yep, that's where it's at, rather than trying to like make a call off it. But the majority of people do log in every month. And I think that's testament to go, oh, how's my money tracking? And it is becoming more and more of a place where people's wealth is, especially now that
Yeah.
they've got, car insurance and savings accounts and things. So it is a bit more in KiwiSaver that
Broader.
broader. So people do check in. There's a bunch of actions people can take now. But yeah, the majority of people, though, it is that kind of auto-invest nature or investing every payday with amounts they can afford. That is a lot of what we set that platform up to be.
Yeah, yeah. So it's obviously matured heaps from when you started it to where it is now. Can you share a little bit about the beginning of the journey and where you're going with Sharesies?
Yeah. I mean, we launched around 8 years ago, and we initially had 6 investment options on our platform, but we always knew that we really want to create financial empowerment for everyone, and that investing was a place to start because it was so like hard to do here in New Zealand. Like even if you had money and you were using a broker or something, it was just like it just wasn't a beautiful digital experience. And then for those that didn't have access to that, it just felt like, oh, it's not even something I could be. Like I couldn't be an investor was like often what we heard when we first started. Where now that's changed a lot. And so we knew to start with investing was a great place to start because it's based on long term, it's goals, it's aspirational. And once people feel like, oh, I can be an investor, or like my money's starting to work for me, oh, well, maybe I could budget differently, or maybe I could invest this way or save this way, or how's my KiwiSaver going? And oh, am I protected this wealth? Where's my insurance? It just starts to, it's from a way more positive mindset, I think.
As
And
opposed to, I don't have enough money, how do I get enough money? It's a bit more like, oh, I can grow my money doing this.
yeah,
Yeah.
once people start to build that confidence and with real money. So that was really, yeah, and that's how we've been able to really support more people as we're on that financial empowerment journey of, rolling out savings accounts and KiwiSaver scheme and car insurance and heaps more to come. We've got, yeah, heaps more on the cards. We'll have little pink, like literal little pink cards, which would be quite cool. Debit cards coming.
Ah,
There's just
epic.
heaps to do to really help, and we really want to support people. Like once we've understand a bit more of their financial picture, how can we help them on that wealth journey? What are ways that we can help them optimize to for the future they want to have, but also for the now.
Yeah, amazing. And obviously, we've got quite a home buying focused audience, but shares is a big part of that wealth journey. And often, shares and KiwiSaver being a form of shares, people probably don't often understand that, but you're putting your money into KiwiSaver and they're investing that in shares, and it's kind of following a risk profile that they've generally taken you through and set up for you. So it's sort of done on your behalf. But Sharesies is an opportunity to be a bit more active and put small amounts in and see that growth occur. How do you see Sharesies playing a role for first home buyers and buyers? Because it's definitely a big opportunity for those in the audience.
Oh, massive. I mean, we're already helping a bunch of people on their first home journey, which is really cool. We've had had first home withdrawals and people getting their first home and give them a call and they're just like so chuffed, It's really cool to see those experiences happening from people being able to use their KiwiSaver plus some of their savings and investing. So yeah, we're already doing a bunch of that, but I'm really excited to see how we can support those people more and make that whole process just really streamlined so they can deal with the relational sides of it and the transactional sides just streamlined, automated and done.
Yeah.
So there's work to do in that space. But yeah, we're seeing heaps with our KiwiSaver scheme, we have really a range of ways that people can invest their money. They can go into Milford or PI funds or smart, ETFs, and also can select their own investments to a certain degree. So
But
that
more kind of customized under the KiwiSaver.
can be customized, or you can just like pick a base fund and grow with that. So yeah, and there's more that we'll be adding to our Sharesies KiwiSaver scheme soon too.
Amazing. Yeah, because KiwiSaver is obviously a great forced kind of program to make sure people are getting that deposit together. But yeah, definitely think that if you are budgeting and moving towards that journey, looking at Sharesies is a great way to bolster that deposit and do so with kind of smaller amounts. Like it's just small amounts that compound and contribute to that deposit. So yeah, super excited to see you guys working with more first home buyers and seeing more first home withdrawals. I think it's a really good time right now for buyers to enter the market. So it's exciting to hear that you guys are supporting in that way. Thank you for joining our community. Please leave an Apple or Spotify review and provide feedback so we can improve our podcast for you. We really appreciate it. Check out the links in today's episode notes to get access to our free resources and your own NZ Home Loans financial advisor. On that note, a quick reminder, Slice the podcast does not provide financial advice as we're not taking into account your personal circumstances. However, when you join our platform, we have a team of partners like New Zealand Home Loans ready to provide you with financial advice free of charge.